We're rolling.
Matthew 28, the last chapter. Short chapter. Okay, so Jesus has risen is the section of the Bible, is what they call it. The Marys went to look at the tomb, and there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it.
I always laugh at that too.
It's so weird.
It's like the victor's been had, the angels all. I love that.
And then ends
Yeah,
sitting on the
and-
tomb. I'm here.
Yeah,
I bet they had some humor like that.
I hope.
Earthquakes. That is so crazy that there are earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
Yeah,
those
and they
are
wrote
confirmed.
Yeah, well, it's like you look at the secular history; they confirm. Later on in the Book of Acts, they confirm there was a famine, and then you go back and you read the famine. Yeah,
Pretty interesting. Flood?
Huh?
Flood?
What about it?
Was there a flood?
I believe there was a flood, but I don't think it was worldwide.
Yeah.
I think it was
But
geographical.
do they indicate that happened?
Yeah, there.
Sorry.
It just depends.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you talk to like Ethan, he's like an archaeologist guy, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think he believes in a worldwide, because there's like rivers that overflow every year in certain parts of the world, and they leave sedimentary evidence.
Yeah.
And we don't have a gap of a worldwide flood in those sedimentary evidences.
Right.
So, but in the basin where the flood took place, and they can actually see where there could have been a basin, it contained, and that's probably as far as all human life went out to.
Okay.
So, and that gives us more sense on how the animals got back to where they came from and everything else. It makes no sense to say that there were animals that came from the Australia area.
No.
The flood happens. Australia becomes an island. And how did we get the koala bear back to freaking Australia? Ken Ham.
I get. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No.
funny, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it is funny. I guess I just wondered if there's any flood at all somewhere. Like, does not matter.
You gotta dive into it. There's a lot on the flood too.
All right. Well, we're not talking about the flood.
Okay.
There was a violent earthquake. Okay, so what? Okay, the angel. His appearance was like lightning. His clothes were white as snow. That's referring to the angel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Is an angel a person? Is there like a definition for angel?
They seem to be able to take on different forms and shapes and all kinds of stuff. Some of them seem to be created in a certain set form, like the cherubim and seraphims of the Old Testament. Some of them seem to have human characteristics when engaging with humans, but the definition of what they look like in the Old Testament is really crazy.
Yeah.
There's like 10,000 eyes and hands and all kinds of crazy descriptions of what they look like. Yeah, quite terrifying to tell you the truth.
Yeah, that is so scary. His appearance was like lightning, though, whatever that means.
Bright. I mean, if an angel that in the heavenly creation came and showed itself to humans who were going to see it, it would probably be terrifying if we saw how he was, or it was constructed to exist in that spiritual, invisible environment.
Yeah.
So to show up as a man is reasonable.
Okay. And the guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men.
Another funny one. I was going.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. The angel said, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you're looking for Jesus who is crucified. He is not here, he's risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go and quickly tell the disciples he's risen from the dead. He's going to Galilee, and there you'll see him." But okay, so I guess I was confused. Like, did that mean that Jesus was elsewhere at that moment? He had already risen. No one witnessed him rise.
No, nobody was there watching the tomb and then
How?
peering in and seeing him go up. No. There's no evidence of anybody watching him rise up from where he was laid. There's only evidence that he existed afterward.
But there were guards there.
Yeah, but the tomb was sealed. So he's inside, it's
Oh.
sealed, they're outside. The stone rolls away, an angel plops on top of it. Inside, there's nothing.
Oh, so he just could have like vanished and then
Yeah.
appeared elsewhere.
Yeah, just
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't get up and walk out
No,
of the
no,
tomb.
no, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of odd.
Mm-hmm. Well, why would you need to if you have a body that can walk through doors and everything?
To show that he was walking out of the tomb.
But he's not showing the guards. He's showing those who believed on him. That's who he goes to first. There's a order. Those who are his first to see him.
Oh, really?
There seems to be, yeah.
Okay. It's
And-
not said, though, that there's the order.
Yeah, but
Okay.
we can say that the guards at least saw the angels
Yeah.
because they became his dead men. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the universal sign language, by the way, for dead men.
Okay.
So 10 years from now, you're watching somebody sign at a sporting event. Someone dies.
Someone dies that fast. Okay, the women hurried away then to tell the disciples.
Who hurried away?
The Marys.
The Marys, the women.
The women.
The women. They hurried away. Yeah. Who were the first witnesses of the risen Lord? Women.
The Marys.
The Marys.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you specify this?
There are so many parallels to Eve, and in her garden, and the women in this garden tomb, and the first Adam and the second Adam. And keep reading because we're going to and just one more thing. All the Gospels will not mesh when it comes to who saw who first and what and last.
Oh.
Yeah. They have parallels that are close, but there's some things that we have to ask. Was Mary Magdalene alone or were the Marys with her? This seems to say the Marys were all there,
Yeah.
but we have other versions that talk about Mary Magdalene being alone. So, and that she went alone to the garden tomb and she alone sees. So we have some different versions on what happened here. Yeah.
So why? Okay, but it was for sure women, which
Women.
is why you. Okay.
Yeah.
It was also women. It was also women with him when he died.
Yeah. His apostles
With the
had forsaken him.
guards.
Now John was there with his mother.
Oh.
And from the cross, he tells him, take care of my mother. He says, woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Take care of her. And apparently John took care of Mary for the rest of her life. But women are vital because they are going all the way back to the garden. They are what God made his image in. Man and woman. Women are vital. And Jesus restored the proper role and right and respect to women. So of the resurrected Lord, the first witness of him is Mary Magdalene, a woman. And then he sends her. She's the first apostle because the definition for an apostle is one sent. He sends her to tell the men the news. So she is put in a predominant role of almost like an Eve archetype of the fixed Adam has now risen and Eve, and he sends her and he says, go. So women play a very important role in the economy of Christ and Christianity, but it's ignored. And so today we have churches still going by Paul's advice that women should have their head covered and they shouldn't speak and they shouldn't teach. It's baloney. Jesus establishes, right? Paul's was for the bride in a day when women were still looked down on. But you miss that and you start to do just because it's in the Bible. Get it? So keep reading.
Okay. So the angel sends the women. There you'll see him. Now I've told you. The women hurried from the tomb, and afraid yet filled with joy ran to the disciples. And suddenly Jesus met them, Greetings, he said. That seems wrong.
Yeah.
It does not seem like what he said.
Greetings. Happy day.
They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. And he said, "Don't be afraid. Tell my brothers, go to Galilee, and there you will see me." So that's how he, because there's not much else on this, but that's how he appears to people. He just appears to people. Okay. And then he like goes away.
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't know who he is.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't recognize
Yeah.
him because, I don't know, because there's only conjecture, but oftentimes they don't know who he is. There was 2 apostles, I think apostles, not followers, but apostles, walking on the road to Emmaus, which we'll read about, and they're talking about what happened in Jerusalem. And someone shows up and it's Jesus, and they don't and they talk with him and have a conversation, and they go home with him and they have food together. And then he disappears when they finally recognize who he is.
Wow.
Yeah. So you think that's impossible. Why wouldn't they know him, right? I got to tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
You know my brother Jeff?
Yeah.
Their family had a dog, and they called this black lab Oprah. Okay? Oprah ran out the front door and was hit by a car. Have you ever heard me tell this story?
No.
Yeah. And, I mean, she's laying dead in the curb, and they're all mourning and crying in the house. And another black dog walks in. And they're like, whose dog is this? And they don't know. And so they're all confused. Come to find out, Oprah just had the wind knocked out of her.
Oh.
Yeah. But they didn't recognize their own dog when it came back in because they thought their dog was dead. So they saw differences in that dog and so our minds freak out when it comes. And that's how I always interpret them not knowing him. They saw him brutalized on a cross. Later on, he's going to tell Thomas, hey, feel the wounds in my hands.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can touch me, feel me. No, it's the same guy. That's why Jesus resurrected with his body. Wow. So that those people could see. If he came back just as a spirit, they'd say, he's a ghost. Yeah. But he came back with the body he died with the wounds still in it. People take that and say, we're going to do the same thing. They're wrong. Paul describes a very different resurrection for us. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That Oprah story.
Yeah. True.
Freaky.
Uh-huh.
I mean, reflective of this and its freakiness. So he tells the woman to go tell my brothers to go to Galilee. While the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests and elders to misinform people that they came during the night and the disciples came during the night and stole him. And this story shifts, and Matthew says, and this story has been widely circulated among the Jews to this very day.
Yeah.
Who is he talking to?
He's talking to the reader of that gospel when he wrote it a number of years later. And he's saying, this is what happened. In this story, the Jews still say that the disciples came and stole his body. And so the question is, well, how did they come and steal his body with guards there and break the seal and everything else? And then what were the guards going to say in response to that? And that becomes something that's addressed later. I don't know if it's in Matthew, but it's addressed later about the guards.
Wait, I'm realizing right now, Jesus, if he didn't walk out of it makes no sense to me that he didn't walk out of the tomb because the tomb opened and the seal was broken. Like, you'd think the seal would be kept closed with the tomb closed and he would appear outside of it to prove that the disciples didn't come and break the seal. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I see that. Yeah, that's a good thought. Why wasn't it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the seal being broken and the tomb being open verifies the sort of alibi that the guards give.
So you would think that there would be a wiser God who would have the order be different in order to... maybe the wiser God didn't want the Jews to believe. Maybe he didn't want to give them that. Maybe he didn't want to make it all physical material thing anymore. He's given them all the material signs of walking on water, healing the dead, all sorts of things for years he's given it. and it's not enough, so maybe he's just like, whatever. And maybe the order was break the tomb open so that the women who are here will see I'm not in there.
Yeah.
And they know. But, and it leaves some scrutiny. I don't know. It's a good question, though. That would have been more reasonable. But you have to admit that if they saw Jesus, that there would be maybe a necessity to at least break the tomb open to see if there was something in there.
Yeah, it's like, it makes sense that the tomb was broken open for Mary's right there to see he's not in there. Then they go. I guess it just also makes sense that the disciple, like, it makes it look like...
It's a good crack in the story, you know, and you have to consider him. You know, well, why wouldn't he appear outside? I don't know.
Okay.
That's what makes your mind good, is you are able to see through the seams and question it, because if you don't, you're going to buy into myth and man's descriptions, and us and to say, I have no idea, man.
Okay, so Matthew was talking to a person that would have been reading this, that he was writing to, like who, I still don't really know.
Remember,
who he's writing
to the Jews, and so he's always citing Old Testament scripture to prove to them he was the Messiah. Luke writes to Gentiles to get them to believe that God was with us as a man. And then John writes to prove him being, Luke writes to prove his humanity. John writes to prove his divinity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you told me that before?
I have.
Sorry. You get me asking the same questions over and over. Maybe a little too much. No, so then the disciples come. There's not much. There's one paragraph left.
Good. That's a good one.
Yeah, I have all the questions, but wait, maybe 2 paragraphs. While the women are on their way, they report that, I just want to cover that. If this report gets to the governor, we'll satisfy him and keep you out of trouble. So the soldiers took the money, did as they were instructed. Okay, we did that.
So they paid off the soldiers. The soldiers needed something reasonable to say because they were going to be put to death for allowing someone to come in and steal that body.
Oh, they would.
Oh, yeah. Roman soldiers, if they didn't do their duty, they died.
Oh,
so,
my gosh. Yeah. And Pilate, he did instruct that, but I thought it was because the elders were asking for that instruction. Yeah. So it surprises me they'd die for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's an embarrassment to the empire for a soldier not to do his job, because they are always in jeopardy of death if they don't.
We should reinstate that rule.
Yeah.
People die for
There's
not
a great show. It has a lot of nudity, but there's a great show if you want to learn about the Roman Empire we should watch. It starts off right at the time of Jesus, of what the Roman Empire and their emperors were like. Fascinating.
How often, this is a TikTok trend, but how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I've heard that's a trend.
Yeah.
I think about it at least 7 times a week.
No.
Oh, yeah.
It's been proven. What? The Roman Empire, you think about that
7
specifically.
times a week, yeah.
Why?
Well, they're so intrinsic to the history of the nation of Israel.
Yeah, I guess you...
I have a reason to. If I wasn't in this field, I would probably never think of it. No, never.
Why is it so common that men think... It's just like common...
Well, the Roman... If you watch the show, you'll see their history is insane.
I believe that, and I get it.
It's manly, it's womanly, it's matriarchy, it's patriarchy, it's deception, it's sex, it's everything in that Roman Empire blown up like mad.
Wow. What's that show called?
I can't remember. Like the Roman Empire.
We'll find out. Okay, well, we have like less than a minute left.
Let's finish up chapter 28 next time because it's a good one.
Okay. See you then.
Let's do it.